So we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to today's Books in Focus, where we're talking about new books coming out in the month of December. We'll go ahead and jump right in with our best-selling fiction titles. The first one we have is Bellevue by Robin Cook. This is a new tale of suspense and horror about a first-year resident student whose life is turned upside down as his strange visions start to reveal a connection to the darker side of the storied hospital in which he works. It's described as giving a good amount of history about the hospital and eerie and atmospheric. So excellent way to start the holiday season. The next book we have is Lawbreaker by Diane Palmer. Tony and O'Daly are enemies turned lovers in this 55th installment of the Long Tall Texans. The only issue is that Tony has a past, but he will do anything and everything to protect O'Daly from it. O'Daly must choose between her dreams of becoming a singer or potentially true love in this engrossing novel with a strong sense of place. The next we have is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. This is the long-awaited explosive climax to the first arc of the epic fantasy series, The Stormlight Archives. The stakes cannot be higher as Dayliner and Nalvani seek an edge in their final battle against the evil Odlium. Next, we have The Last One by Rachel Housel Hall. In this, Kai wakes up in the woods with no idea how she got there, only a vague idea of how to get out of the woods. She finds a skilled blacksmith willing to help her, though he is also skilled at annoying her in this frenemies to lovers romantasy debut. Next, we have Tom Clancy Defense Protocol by Brian Andrews. This is the latest in the Jack Ryan series. The stakes are sky high in this action-packed thriller when a power-mad Chinese president threatens Taiwan. Next we have Where the Creek Bends by Linda Leal Miller. This is a powerful story about the ties that bind family, the power of friendship, and the love that connects us all. And I don't want to give more away, but it's getting a lot of very positive reviews. So definitely something to check out. Next we have Stuart Wood's Golden Hour by Brett Battles. Former CIA operative Teddy Frey returns from another heart-pounding adventure when Teddy gets roped into another mission after several of his former colleagues turn up dead. Then the last best-selling fiction title we have is What the Wife Knew by Darby Kane. This is described as a twisty domestic thriller about a wife wondering who tried to kill her husband twice before succeeding and ruining her own plans to murder him.
Okay, so new nonfiction. First we have The Last Kilo by T.J. English. This is a true crime saga that looks at Los Muchachos, one of the most successful cocaine trafficking organizations in American history. It's a story of glitz, glamour, and organized crime set in 1980s Miami. Money for Couples is a book that addresses the most common money issues in relationships by the host of the I Will Teach You to Be Rich podcast, also author of the book by that name. Taylor Swift by the Book by Rachel Feeder, a guide to all the literary connections that fill the lyrics of Taylor Swift's songs, from fairy tales to novels to poems to plays, filled with fun facts, entertaining analysis, and literary themed playlists that fans will love. If you want that one, you have to wait until Ashton is done reading it. Of John. Break Up on Purpose by John Kim. Therapist Kim in this one provides a sensitive and approachable guide to bouncing back from heartbreak, outlining 8 types of breakups and the unique challenges each poses. The McCartney Legacy Volume 2 is the follow-up to the, you guessed it, McCartney Legacy Volume 1, which is the most complete work on the life and work of Paul McCartney ever published. Volume 2 continues to paint the portrait of one of the world's greatest musicians, his work post-Beatles, and his life from 1974 to 1980. The Volume 1 was 1969 to 1973. Southern Living 2024 Annual Recipes. This is, of course, the annual collection of top-rated recipes from the best chefs in the South and the editors and experts at Southern Living magazine. Next is Crush Your Money Goals by Bernadette Joy. In a friendly, supportive tone, financial expert Bernadette Joy explains her trademark Crush program to achieving financial wellness. And then lastly, Inheriting Magic by Jennifer Love Hewitt. In this one, the actress recounts her journey from sorrow to celebration after she lost her mother to cancer. She shares memories, family photographs, favorite recipes, and tips for adding magic to your family's everyday routine. Okay. First up, for new fiction, we have Locked In. This is the 10th and purportedly final book in the Department Q series that's set in Copenhagen. Detective Carl Mork, head of Department Q, which is the cold case unit in the Copenhagen Police Department, is framed and put behind bars where his life is at risk. And while his other colleagues turn on him, his loyal team in Department Q have to defy orders to try and clear his name. Publishers Weekly says Adler Olsen sends this excellent series out on a high note, reaping the benefits of his deep character work in the previous novels. Fans will be thrilled. If you want to start the series at the beginning, the first book is The Keeper of Lost Causes. In this one, Chief Detective Carl Mork, recovering from what he thought was a career-destroying gunshot wound, is relegated to cold cases and becomes immersed in the 5-year disappearance of a politician. So that's where the story begins. Another read-alike would be The Hypnotist by Lars Kepler. This is a fast-paced thriller about a Swedish detective investigating a triple homicide who enlists the help of a hypnotist to try and get information from a traumatized witness.
Next, we have Private Rights by Julia Armfield. This is a literary fiction title. After the death of their father, an architect that was cruel as he was revered sisters Isla, Irene, and Agnes come together despite their estrangement to sort through his things. The fragile bond they have rebuilt is shattered by a revelation in his will and starting to upset the story of their mother's disappearance. This is described as a reimagining of the play of King Lear, centering on the lives of the 3 sisters as they navigate love, loss in a drowning world. Actually, my first read-alike is 1,000 Acres by Jane Smiley, because it is also a reimagining of King Lear set in rural Iowa. Larry Cook announces his intention to turn his 1,000-acre farm, one of the largest in the county, to his 3 daughters, to turn it over to them. Larry is a man of harsh sensibilities, and as he slowly drinks himself to death, his 3 daughters are left to cope with the grim realities of farm life, described as detailed and engrossing. The other read-alike I have is also a Shakespearean retelling. This is Hag's Seat by Margaret Atwood, though it's retelling the play of The Tempest. And I'm just going to read a direct quote from one of the reviews on this because it's very fun to me. The revenge tale Atwood crafts is small scale in the biggest way possible, centered on a theater festival and its wronged director. It's described as a great read for both fans of Shakespeare, those who know nothing about him, and those who know everything about him. So you can't go wrong. next one up there is Against the Grain by Peter Lovesay. This is a mystery. Detective Peter Diamond is back for this final installment of the Peter Diamond Mystery Series. Detective Diamond gets to test his investigation skills as an amateur sleuth in this new title when he is invited to the countryside by his former deputy to look into a manslaughter case where a man was suffocated to death in a grain silo. An unpopular rich girl is blamed, though something's not adding up according to Detective Diamond and his former deputy. He's concerned that the country is going to be so boring and not nearly as interesting as the city in which he is used to, though he quickly learns that it is not as dull as he thought. In this delightful, if not bittersweet conclusion to a series that has spanned over 30 years and 21 novels. So if you want to start this story, it's the first one in the series is The Last Detective by also by, of course, Peter Lovesay, where you were introduced to Detective Superintendent Peter Diamond. This one centers around a naked body that turns up in a weedy lake near Bath in England with no marks, no murder weapon, and seemingly no identity. Strange things with this case end up linking together truant choir boys, a teddy bear, and a black Mercedes, and a lot of Jane Austen memorabilia. So this is described as a fun one to try to figure out how to fit the jigsaw pieces together. The other read-alike I have is also centered around somebody who is retiring and literary mystery shenanigans. This is A Cryptic Clue by Victoria Gilbert. It also has a similarly unpopular individual being blamed for a murder they potentially did not commit. In this one, 60-year-old Jane Hunter is soon to be a retired university librarian seeking new challenges to supplement her meager pension. When she is hired on as an archivist for a private collector, she is thrilled until a dead body is found in his library. Jane must figure out if the young, socially awkward collector is innocent or guilty. That is not me.
The rest is a memory by Lily Tuck. It is a historical fiction. Tuck is a National Book Award winner. She wrote a book called The News from Paraguay, which was published in 2004. This one is a haunting and profound novel inspired by the photograph on the cover of a Polish Catholic girl killed at Auschwitz in 1943. So the author imagines the girl's life leading up to the time of the photo, as well as her time in the concentration camp. In this book, she lives on a farm with her parents when the Nazis invade Poland and displace all the farmers. The story intersperses various historical accounts and figures in the otherwise fictional narrative. With graphic imagery and lyrical prose, Tuck vividly evokes the girl's innocence and resilience as she tries to hold out hope. It's an unforgettable portrait of a buoyant youth in the grimmest of places. First read-alike is Silka's Journey by Heather Morris. This is the same author who wrote The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Silka's Journey is the gripping story about a beautiful 16-year-old girl who survives Auschwitz only to be condemned to a prison camp for sleeping with the enemy. And then The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which you've probably heard of before, by John Boyne. In this one, this was about the bored and lonely son of a Nazi officer who befriends a boy in striped pajamas who lives behind a wire fence.
Cry havoc and let's look at the dogs of war. This book has nothing to do with that. I just really like that quote. Anyway, this is Havoc by Christopher Bolin. This is described as a twisty, atmospheric, psychological suspense thriller, all of the adjectives there, about a cantankerous, meddlesome 81-year-old widow who meets her match in a wicked and cruel 8-year-old boy as they are trapped in a dilapidated luxury hotel during the COVID-19 pandemic. They engage in a battle of wits and horrific mayhem. This is further described as a wild ride off the rails, and the phrase in almost every review of this book that I saw had the words "buckle up." So, you know, good times will be had, I'm sure. Both of my read-alikes focus on themes of the cruelty that kids can inflict on one another and others, in addition to a similar menacing tone and suspenseful buildup. The first one is Baby Teeth by Zojeg Stage. In this one, Hannah is a sweet but silent angel in the adoring eyes of her father, the only person who understands her. All Hannah wants to do is to live happily ever after with her dad. But Mommy is standing in her way, and she will do anything to get rid of her. It's described as a twisty domestic horror. The other read-alike I have is a classic, Lord of the Flies by William Golding, with themes centered around society, terror, and mob mentality. A group of schoolboys are stranded on an island without any adults. At first, their freedom to do whatever they want is celebrated. However, as their makeshift society starts to collapse, a strange howl echoes, and evil is unleashed.
This one's a debut by Amy James. It's a heartwarming and humorous romance in which an unlikely couple fall in love over Wordle. Emily is 27, stuck in a low-paying receptionist job at a small-town auto shop on Prince Edward Island, and she's searching for direction in life. She unexpectedly bonds with her coworker John when she turns to him for help with her Wordle. When an internship opportunity in New York City presents itself, Emily is forced to decide between a possible dream job and the place and people she's come to love. It's an easy read for fans of puzzles and breezy romance. This book is also a great choice for those who prefer the romances on the lighter side. So for more in the way of lighthearted rom-coms, you could try Don't You Forget About Me by Marion McFarlane. In this one, a young woman takes a bartending job to discover it's run by the guy she fell in love with years ago and doesn't remember her. And then Worst in Show by Anna E. Collins is about an aspiring fashion designer who gets stuck working in her grandpa's struggling pet shop that's competing with an upscale dog boutique run by a former finance hotshot.
Good morning, ladies. I suppose it is. You can have that one. Book for Murder by P.J. Nelson is a mystery. After years of her acting career not taking off, Madeline Brimley is bequeathed her late aunt's Victorian mansion turned bookstore. Upon arrival, an unknown arsonist has set the gazebo ablaze and threatens the rest of the house if Madeline doesn't leave immediately. Madeline braves out the threat until another fire is lit in the store and a body is found among the flames. My two read-alikes for this are going to be How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. At 16 years old, Frances is told by a fortune teller that one day she'll be murdered. 60 years later, when she is, her grandniece must follow a vast collection of secrets she's kept and collected of the people around her to solve her great aunt's murder. And The Framed Women of Ardmore House by Brandy Schillace. After losing her mom, marriage, and job within a year, Jo Jones inherits a family estate in North Yorkshire but her luck gets worse when the groundskeeper is found dead, and she's a prime suspect. Suspect. So, that's me still. All right. We got Sister Snake by Amanda Lee Coe. Two sisters who were once snakes in ancient China now live different lives in New York and Singapore, respectively. Sue leads a pampered political life while Emerald barely makes ends meet, doing as she wishes in the streets of New York. 1,000 years has separated them, but when Emerald is violently attacked in Central Park, Sue makes her way to America to be there for her sister. The separation is tenuous, but when Sue brings Emerald home to Singapore to aid her, Emerald becomes more than a handful and a threat to the secrets of their past. Read likes for that are going to be The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. In 1714, a girl makes a deal for immortality at the cost of being forgotten by everyone she meets. Until one day, a young man remembers her 300 years later. And How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. Tom, an immortal disguised as a 41-year-old French teacher, just wants a normal life. But a shadow organization that helps people like Tom prevents him from being with the woman he's recently fallen in love with. Deadbeat by Adam Hamdy. Peyton Collard spirals to nothing after he kills a person while drunk driving one night. When he lands himself in prison again with no bail money, a mysterious benefactor pays his way out, and in exchange for $100,000 to kill an evil man with 2 shots to the head. Peyton weighs the efficacies and the benefits he can provide to his daughter before becoming a full-blown assassin and trekking across the United States, doing the bidding of this strange, shadowy figure. My 2 real likes for this are the ever-popular Killing Floor Reacher series, starting with Killing Floor by Lee Child. Former Army military police major Jack Reacher travels America solving large-scale conspiratorial cases, saving small towns to the whole country from politicians. And American Assassin by Vince Flynn, which is a part of the Mitch Rapp saga series. Mitch Rapp becomes a CIA assassin, kills his way through Europe to prevent terrorists from attacking America again.
Now on the lighter side, we have The Wrong Lady Meets Lord Right by Suzanne Allian. This is a lighthearted Regency romance. When a young woman of low birth trades places with her noble cousin, their innocent ruse leads to love. It's described as a sparkling new Regency-era romantic comedy. It's written in a tongue-in-cheek style that is laugh-out-loud funny. It's just a delightful, warm romp. Both of the read-alikes I have are also described as feel-good historical rom-coms, and I selected them because they involve secret identities and that sort of a thing. The first one is A Spinster's Guide to Danger and Dupes by Amanda Collins. This is a genre-bending book that's somewhere between a romance and a mystery. It's set in England, 1867. Miss Poppy Del Mar is living a lie to escape a betrothal she's hiding as a secretary named Flora. But when her sister is accused of murder, Poppy cannot abandon her, even if it means helping the Duke of Langham escape the many society ladies seeking to become his Duchess. The other read-alike I have is Never Fall for Your Fiancé by Virginia Heath. This is actually the first in a historical rom-com series. A handsome earl hires a fake fiancé to keep his matchmaking mother at bay, but hilarity ensues when love threatens to complicate everything in this lighthearted, laugh-out-loud romance.
Okay, The Rivals is book 2 in the mystery series by Jane Peck. It's a witty and thought-provoking mystery that reimagines the spy story to explore the nature of relationships in a digital age. The main character is Claudia Lynn, a mystery novel superfan who runs a small detective agency called Veracity with her business partner Bex and tech expert Squirrel. The specific service that Veracity provides their clients is verifying claims made on online dating apps. And when one of their clients dies unexpectedly, they find themselves investigating the nefarious plot of a dating app company. This one has emotionally complex characters and lots of references to mystery tropes and espionage thrillers. The first book, as I already mentioned, is The Verifiers. And this one is kind of a modern twist on classic detective fiction. In this one, you'll meet Claudia, who has recently graduated and is embarking on her uncertain career path, starting out with Veracity while trying to deal with family expectations. And then the second read-alike is Peg and Rose Stir Up Trouble. Sisters Peg and Rose look into the death of a man Peg had met on a dating site. It has well-drawn, bickering senior sleuths and sympathetic secondary characters. Close Up by Pip Drysdale is a glossy neo-noir. 30-year-old Zoe is a struggling author living in Los Angeles who has a stalker reenact violent events from her thriller. A book that initially failed, but goes viral after she begins dating a celebrity. Drysdale's tale takes the form of an after-the-fact tell-all written by Zoe, characterized by clever foreshadowing and an intoxicating Hollywood buzz. This offers plenty of frothy fun. Jeffrey Deaver has his Catherine Dance series. This particular one is titled XO, and Special Agent Catherine Dance is trying to stop an obsessive stalker who's trying to destroy a beautiful country singer. And Cinnamon Girl is about a Lyft driver turned sleuth who has to delve into the dark side of the Los Angeles rock scene after his piano teacher asks for a favor.
Rental House by Wei Wong is an insight into a family through 2 vacations. Kiro and Nate meet in college, marrying soon after, both being the black sheep of their respective families. Kiro is the daughter of a diligent Chinese immigrants who see anything but hard work as unnecessary luxury. Nate's family looks down on his higher education and his foreigner wife. When the couple plot 2 intricate vacations, including both families, disaster stirs with the clashing fronts of culture, ideals, and ignorances. And my 2 real-likes are Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. Rachel finds her new boyfriend is an heir to a stupid rich fortune. She is pulled into the world of the super wealthy and she struggles to live up to his family and more specifically his mother's expectations. And The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan 4 Chinese immigrant women in 1949 gather for weekly mahjong night and raise their respective daughters, telling the stories of what they left behind in China, while also passing down the traumas of their respective pasts.
This next one is The Champagne Letters by Kate McIntosh. It is a historical fiction novel with dueling timelines. First, in 1805, you follow Madame Clicquot as she struggles to pursue the dream of creating one of the premier champagne houses in France after the death of her beloved husband. In 2024, Natalie runs away to Paris after a devastating divorce. Browsing a bookstall, she discovers a published collection of letters from Madame Clicquot, which inspired her to step out of her comfort zone and look at the world in a new way. This is described as a richly detailed and immersive historical fiction that seamlessly weaves together these 2 timelines and complementary characters. Both of the read-alikes I selected have a very strong sense of place, specifically in Paris. The first one is The Paris Novel by Ruth Reichel. In this one, Stella's estranged mother passed away, leaving her a weird bequest, a one-way plane ticket to Paris and a note reading "Go to Paris." Stella is not the adventurous type. After a childhood trauma keeps her carefully confined to her crafted routine, but it's her mother's dying wish. This is described as an adventurous novel of food, art, and fashion in 1980s Paris, with an emotional, heartfelt novel about taking chances and finding yourself.
It was a fun book.
Yes, and Carol approves. The other read-alike I have is more of a straight historical fiction. This is The Women of Chateau Lafayette by Stephanie Dry. In this one, individuals from the past impact the future. It is described as an epic saga based on the true story of an extraordinary chateau in the heart of France and the remarkable women bound by its legacy, intricately weaving together stories about duty, hope, and the strength that we take from those who came before us.
Okay. Definitely Better Now is a touching and deeply funny debut about starting over sober only to discover life's biggest messes are still waiting right where you left them. After years of struggling with addiction, Emma, a 26-year-old marketing assistant, has not drank or dated 1 entire year. Now she's trying to rebuild her life as a sober adult, which involves navigating a budding attraction to a coworker and the reappearance of her estranged father. Thoughtfully presented details about alcoholism and sobriety add realism to Emma's story. And while serious issues such as addiction, trauma, and terminal illness are major plot points, there's a hopeful tone throughout and plenty of humor. As read-alikes, I have I Hope This Finds You Well by Natalie Sue. This is a tender comedy about a young woman who was granted access to her entire department's private emails due to an IT mix-up. It has themes of love and loneliness. And then Margot's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe is a funny, heartwarming story about a young woman's attempt to navigate adulthood, new motherhood, and her meager bank account.
Sweet Dahlia by Lisa Sandlin is a women's fiction title. It's set in 1964, Texas, and is the story of a middle-aged woman who discovers her own strength after the unexpected loss of her husband and discoveries about him that turn her life upside down. She's forced to move into a hotel and finds herself experiencing life in a new way as she works to build something that is truly hers. It's described as beautifully written with an emotionally intense story, strong themes of endurance and finding your own way, and just overall positive reviews for this comic book. The read-alikes I picked both center on women who are finding themselves in situations that they could not have imagined and having to find the strength to move forward. The first is the Fifth Avenue Glamour Girl by Renee Rosen. This is set in New York City during the Depression. Our primary protagonist is Gloria. She is a former high society socialite, and she is very used to her life until it's revealed that her father is a fraud. Broke and without skills, Gloria is forced to find her way in the world, and she manages to get a job at a salon where she meets an interesting young woman named Estee Lauder. This is a fast-paced historical fiction that is perfectly immersive without being overly detailed. The other read-alike I have, you might have heard of it, is The Women by Kristen Hanna. This is the story of a young woman who tries to make her parents, especially her father, proud by becoming an army nurse and going to Vietnam to serve. Not only does the experience she has in Vietnam fundamentally change her understanding of herself and her place in the world, it also changes how her parents see her, but not for the better. This is an emotionally intense book that explores what it means to be truly seen and unseen. The next one is The Secrets of the Three Fates by Jess Armstrong. This is a mystery in which Rudy Vaughn is back this is her second installment in this series. She is traveling to an isolated castle on the English-Scottish border with her new business partner and housemate, Mr. Owen. Mr. Owen is desperate to say goodbye to his son who died in the Great War. A seance is arranged with three clairvoyants who call themselves the Three Fates. But when one turns up dead, questions and secrets arise and something potentially more sinister is described as a gothic historical mystery. My first read-alike is also by another Armstrong, no relation, I checked. It's I'll Be Waiting by Kelly Armstrong. It is a contemporary story, but with a similar premise of a seance that goes horribly wrong. A young woman with a terminal illness whose last moments with her dying husband go viral after a car accident. Seances become her addiction as she tries to find closure. Though most are hosted by those only looking to make a quick buck. Her friends and family try to encourage her to find closure by doing one last seance with a more skeptical and seemingly legitimate medium. However, nothing is as it seems in this chilling, atmospheric book. I personally read this one, and I am not a horror person, and I enjoyed it. The next read-alike I have is The Shape of Darkness by Laura Purcell. This is more of a gothic mystery in which Agnes is making just enough money to support her elderly mother and orphan nephew as a silhouette artist. When a string of her clients are murdered, she seeks help from a medium to solve the case. However, they quickly discover together that once a door has been opened, it is difficult to close in this supernatural gothic mystery.
So the other one that you had up there, The Secret of Three Fates?
Yep.
That's book 2 in the series?
Yes.
Book 1 is The Curse of Fall, which I just finished.
Yep.
And I loved it, and it's in the book market for $4. Because I brought it in and stuck it in there. It's on a display too.
Nice.
Eddie Winston is Looking for Love by Marion Cronin. Eddie is a 90-year-old man, a gentleman, a romantic, a volunteer, and has never been kissed. When troubled 24-year-old Bella, whose love of her life recently passed, discovers Eddie and his situation, it is her mission to find him love, stoking an adventure in this tale of kindness, love, and friendship. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry by Rachel Joyce. When Harold Fry receives a letter from a long-lost love who is on her deathbed, Harold leaves his abusive wife to travel 600 miles by foot across England to hand-deliver his reply letter. And Major Pettigrew's Last Stand by Helen Simonson. The death of his brother sparks a retired British Army major to befriend a Pakistani shopkeep, much to the dismay of his xenophobic neighbors.
I read both of those, so I think I'm gonna have to read it also.
Okay. I thought they were cute. I like them.
Okay.
Is it this one? Maybe it's not me. Yeah, it's on
The Greatest Lie of All by Gillian Cantor. Amelia Grant is a fledgling actress trying to deal with both her mother's death and a cheating boyfriend. When she gets the opportunity to play a famous romance novelist, Gloria Diamond, in an upcoming film. In preparation for her role, Amelia is to spend time with Gloria at her Washington estate. Amelia finds Gloria cold and aloof, but her handsome son makes the experience more tolerable. Amelia ends up stumbling across a secret from Gloria's past that reveals there was more to her story than was previously known. Cantor crafts an engrossing, emotionally resonant tale that weaves the past and the present to uncover the story of Gloria's life and loves. First read alike is Did You Hear About Kitty Carr by Crystal Smith Paul. This one is about a woman who is bequeathed the multi-million-dollar estate of a famous black actress and ends up discovering something shocking about the actress's rise to stardom. And The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a Hollywood-centric fictional biography about one actress's rise to the top, the risks she took, the loves she lost, and the long-held secrets the public could never imagine.
This is Trouble Island by Sharon Short, which is based on a true story about the author's family. In 1932, there was an island in the middle of Lake Erie that acted as a midpoint and base of operations for mobster gangs to transport drugs to and from Canada. This is where Aurelia and Rosita, both wives of infamous mafiosos, reside. Ariella in hiding for a murder she committed 5 years prior. But when a slew of criminals usurp the island, Aurelia, gosh, I can't get that one, finds Rosita's body and is set up as her killer. Two read likes for this are going to be The Family Corleone, which is the sequel to The Godfather. This was written after Mario Puzo's death, and it's based off of his original notes for this book, for the screenplay. Pretty cool. And it's kind of like a setup story for the original Godfather. And then The Family by Naomi Kropitsky. Two daughters of intertwined mafia bosses have a wedge driven through their lifelong friendship as one of their fathers vanishes soon after wanting to leave the crime family.
The Voyage Home by Pat Barker is the final in her series about women of Troy. In this one, Barker weaves together the stories of Cassandra, the legendary priestess and enslaved concubine to King Agamemnon, and Queen Clytemnestra, who is vengeful after Agamemnon sacrifices their eldest daughter, Iphigenia, to go to war. Both women are united by visions of Agamemnon's death, and it will change everyone's fate. It's described as conjuring vivid images of a world stained by the grief of mothers and daughters. Naturally, my first read like is Clytemnestra by Costanza Casti. It is a reimagining of the Oresteia and the Iliad from Clytemnestra's perspective. Forced to watch the murder of her daughter at the hands of her husband, she decides what she can do to make him pay for this loss. It is beautifully written with a well-crafted plot. It is an ancient story of a fierce and fiery woman finally given the spotlight she deserves. The next is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is also the story of the Trojan War from the women's perspective, but it's taken from all of their perspectives, including the Greeks, the Trojans, the various gods and goddesses. It's described as an immersive retelling of Homer's classic and is well crafted and detailed.
The Seaside Homecoming is about Claire Summers, a woman who was estranged from her family after a failed elopement, and she answers an ad seeking someone to help manage a seaside boarding house owned by a charming widower who lives there with his daughter and her governess. Brisk prose keeps the pages turning as Klassen delicately unpacks Claire's guilty feelings and fragile hopes for love. This jaunt to the British coast delights, says Publishers Weekly. For more of the same, you could also check out The Sisters of Seaview by the same author. This one's about an impoverished young woman who finds herself attracted to a mysterious widower who is boarding in her home after the house is open to guests to help make ends meet. And Jody Headland's With You Always, set in 1850s New York. It's about a young woman who has to leave her two orphan sisters to take a job in Illinois, where she meets a wealthy entrepreneur who is under pressure to marry.
Alter Ego by Alex Seguro. The second in the Secret Identity series, acclaimed writer, artist, and filmmaker, and one of the best superhero writers, Annie Bustamante, is finally able to get the rights to her favorite superhero names. Superhero ones. The Lethal Links. But who she's getting the rights from is shady, with a horde of skeptical fans already criticizing her move to write the character's next series, and producers already trying to sabotage the outcome. Annie must lock in and hammer out her greatest work yet. My two real likes for this are going to be Shred Sisters by Betsy Werner. Amy grows up in the shadow of her hurricane-level destructive sister who storms in and out of her family's life. And as Amy makes a name for herself in the publishing world, she must fend off her sister's wave of devastation. And Colored Television by Danzy Sena. Coinciding with finishing her greatest work, writer Jane and her family are offered a job to house sit a luxurious house in the hills of Los Angeles. But Jane soon gets tangled up with the shady producers who like nothing more than to use her up and spit her out. All right. What a It's Like in Words by Eliza Moss. Despite having an array of healthy life goals, Enola can't bring herself to work towards any of them. And when she falls in love with an emotionally distant and uncaring new boyfriend, Enola breaks herself trying to appease him as he manipulates and gaslights her. We got three links for this one. So it ends with Us by Holly Hoover. Colleen Hoover. This is the first in a series. After courting and falling in love, Lily begins seeing the abusive side of her boyfriend, Riley. And although growing up with an abusive father had her swear to never put herself in that situation, she refuses to leave. And in Educated, this is a memoir detailing the writer's childhood of abuse, physically and psychologically and financially, and through educational manipulation. Tara educates herself as going on to school by herself and educates herself in order to end up going to college on her own and getting herself out of that type of situation. And then this isn't one in our library, but I was able to talk to a professional in the domestic violence field. She works in the courts and the TV shelter here in Marion, and she highly recommends Conversations with Jean. This is a mother's kind of memoir, or like not autobiographical, but she writes for her daughter after she's killed by her abusive husband, and uses diary entries from both her daughter and the abuser, which allows for a really rare insight into the psychology and like the deterioration over time of the two people involved. So.
We are now into the nonfiction. So this one is The Custodians of Wonder by Elliot Stein. This is a vivid look at 10 people who keep some of the world's most ancient customs alive. Spanning the globe, Stein traveled to meet the keepers of traditional knowledge before it becomes lost to time. From the world's rarest pasta in Italy, to the secret of real Japanese soy sauce, to the last Incan bridge master and more, it's described as having a little something for everyone and giving a unique perspective on these traditions and how we keep them going. Both of my read-alikes also involve how information is passed on and historical crafts and people who are trying to keep them alive. The first is actually a book discussion pick from earlier this year. It is The Hands of Time, A Watchmaker's History by Rebecca Struthers. This book explores the history of watchmaking and how the need to track time has impacted our society and our understanding of history, and how watchmaking has evolved. Next is Papyrus, The Invention of Books in the Ancient World by Irene Valjevo. This is a rich exploration of the importance of books and libraries and how information is passed on beyond one lifetime. Next is The Last Tsar by Soshi Hasegawa. This is a new book detailing the fall of Tsar Nicholas II in 1917, how his resistance to reforms and modernization doomed his reign and his family, and the overlapping crises faced by Imperial Russia. Using a trove of new archival materials, this book is being recognized as a definitive work on the end of Imperial Russia and its monarchy. It's described as elegantly written and masterfully researched and very engrossing in general. The The first read-alike I have is actually a fiction title. It is A Gentleman in Moscow by Artos. This is a fictionalized account of an unrepentant aristocrat who was sentenced to house arrest in the Hotel Metropole by Bolshevik Tribunal in 1922. The other read-alike I have is The Race to Save the Romanovs by Helen Rampart. This is the killing of the Russian royal family in July of 1918 has been well documented and written about. However, very little has been written about the attempts to save them until now. So that's what this book details, is the various attempts by government agencies, other royal families that with connections to the Romanovs and others in their attempt to rescue them from the Bolsheviks.
When We Sold God's Eye by Alex Cuadros. Diamond's Murder and the Clash of Worlds in the Amazon. The real look at 3 Brazilian kids whose lives are overthrown by government and Western indoctrination into their home region, destroying their rainforest, cultures, and freedoms as capitalism reigns over them, forcing assimilation and leading to atrocious massacres involving illegal trades. It's a sort of an adventure story about 3 individuals' ability and determination to survive. I kind of focus more on the illegal trade aspect when I pick my read-alikes for this. So Blood Diamonds, Tracing the Deadly Path of the World's Most Precious Stones by Greg Campbell, is an in-depth look at the immoral blood diamond trade and its devastating repercussions on Sierra Leone. And Cocaine Nation, How the White Trade Took Over the World by Tom Feelig, is an in-depth look at the cocaine industry from the fields of Colombia to its impact in the Western worlds and the failures of the war on drugs to combat its spread and use. And Sisters in Science by Olivia Campbell, How 4 Women Physicists Escaped Nazi Germany and Made Scientific History. After the Nazis took power in the 1930s, both Jewish and female citizens were forced out of their academic positions. Hedwig Cohn, Weiss, Metnier, Martha Smallner, and Hildegard Stocklin Journey to Escape Germany, facing deleterious obstacles and relying heavily on the good of others to get them to safety. Weiss went to Sweden, where she would make advancements in nuclear physics, and the other 3 became physics educators in American universities and influencing future generations of women. The 9, The True Story of a Band of Women Who Survived the Worst of Nazi Germany by Gwen Strauss, follows the true tale of the author's great aunt, Helen Podlaski, who led a band of female resistance fighters out of a forced labor camp and out of Germany, and then go on to smuggle weapons through Europe and conduct secret operations against the Nazis. And The Fantastic Laboratory of Dr. Rigel, How 2 Brave Scientists Battled Typhus and Sabotaged the Nazis by author Allen. The scientist responsible for the cure to typhus finds himself trapped under Nazi occupation as the Reich suffers from the disease. But the doctor gives the Nazis a weakened dose while sending the real cure to allies and refugees under close scrutiny of the watch of the Nazi Party.
Troublemaker by Mark Clifford is the astonishing story of the billionaire businessman Jimmy Lai, who became one of Hong Kong's leading activists for democracy and is today China's most famous political prisoner. author who was on the board of directors of Wise Company and has a PhD in Hong Kong history. Tells the story of Wai's journey from poverty to business owner who used his media publications to push for democracy, much to the irritation of the Chinese Communist Party. He was arrested on national security charges in 2020 and remains in prison to this day. It's a spirited profile in defiance. Patriot by Alexei Navalny is the life story of the author. He is or was a Russian opposition leader, anti-corruption activist, and political prisoner who ultimately gave his life in the cause for individual freedom in Russia. And so we got China, we got Russia, bringing it back to the States with this biography of John Lewis. It's a thoroughly researched and dramatically told biography of the hero of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. A hero, I should say. And last but not least, we have Ingrained by Callum Robinson. In this one, a Scottish carpenter who reflects on his life's journey and his craft. Robinson is the eldest son of a master woodworker and spent his childhood surrounded by wood and trees. After apprenticing with his father, he grew up to establish his own workshop, but almost went out of business after a major job fell through. Blending memoir and nature writing at its finest, Ingrained is an uplifting meditation on the challenges of working with your hands in our modern age, on community, consumerism, and the beauty of the natural world. One that asks us to see our local trees and our own wooden objects in a new and revelatory light. So for something similar, H is for Hawk by Helen MacDonald. This is about the author training a dangerous ghost hawk as part of her recovering from her father's sudden death. So another kind of combination of memoir and nature. And Airplane Mode is a combination of history and travel writing and memoir with the author's own personal story of being an immigrant for whom round trips are an annual part of life. So that finishes this month's Books in Focus. The next one's going to be on December 10th. Same time, same place. As per usual, feel free to put holes in any of these at the desk.
Thank you.
Let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks for coming.